Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, car theft is down. It's amazing when you enforce the law, crime actually decreases. But before we get to any of that, time for a daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
When I was a full-time youth director, the kids knew that if I wasn't yelling and screaming and lecturing them in a very calm and quiet voice, that's when I was really mad. And for those who listen to the show, you know that when I get really amped up, I get all loud and crazy, and you got to turn down the volume. I'm livid today. I am beyond livid. In fact, half the segments that we've already prepped for the show today are making me livid for a bunch of different reasons. I'm going to start with this first one. According to new information surfaced by Doge, this is from Just the News. Before the Trump administration closed USAID's doors, the agency regularly routed funding to causes aligned with George Soros' nonprofit empire, terrorists, and drag queens. Now, this included funding BLM during the riots of 2020. I'm a bit of a sponge. I'm a bit of an emotional sponge. And right before 9/11, I'd just gotten my first apartment in college. And I had my roommate, and we had just signed up for Warner Brothers Time Warner Cable. I remember that. And I think we got it the day before 9/11. You know, I always wanted my own TV. My parents never let me have a TV in my room. I had limited TV time at night. I think it was 30 minutes on weeknights, an hour on weekends. That's all I got. So I was really excited to have my own TV with all the channels. I don't know how I was going to pay for it, but I had all those things. I had my bartending job, so I'm sure I could cover the cable. But right after 9/11 and everything that happened in New York, where I was living at the time, I was just glued to that TV, and I wasn't watching reruns of Friends or Seinfeld or ER or any of that. No, my friends. I was watching the news. That's when I really started watching the news to see what was going on. And I knew people who were down at the World Trade Center. I knew families that were affected by what happened, and I just soaked it all up, and it took its toll on me. Not as much as the people who were right there, but it definitely took an emotional toll on me. And I am constantly an emotional sponge for things like this. So, for example, after October 7th, those of you who have been longtime listeners of the show, you know the emotional toll that took on me. Some of the posts I saw on social media when I would go on John Carlson's show or Fox News or Newsmax or anything for that matter, people would be like, wow, this is not the same Ari. This is a very different Ari because I take these things personally. The autonomous zone in 2020 is where I got my media chops. I wasn't really that experienced. I had written a few op-eds for the Post-Millennial. But when they said, hey, there's this autonomous zone happening in Seattle, can you go cover it? You still live there, right? I went down there. And I was there almost every single day, different times. I wanted to see what it was like in early morning. And it was funny, was the first time I went down there, I was still running my event rental company. And I was delivering bounce houses. I had them in the back of my truck, and I was just hoping nobody was going to steal my truck while I was down there or steal the bounce houses and stuff out of it while I was down there. But the first time I went down there, it was on my way to a delivery. And as I'm covering this thing, I didn't realize how much it affected me. I really didn't. Through some other things in my life, but I was talking with some friends who were security guards who were hired by individuals when the police weren't allowed to be inside the autonomous zone. And I was talking with a few of them. And they were describing, and they were openly discussing this, how they had to go see some shrinks because of the stuff they saw. I was talking with a buddy of mine who used to be a firefighter before the vaccine mandate insanity, who was telling me that the sound of an AR-15 being fired in residential streets triggered stuff he had experienced in the military, and he was suffering from PTSD. And I realized that I was angry all the time and ticked off all the time, and not like what you hear on the show, but like lashing out at people I'm close to and my family members and stuff, and something was really, really wrong. And I went to see counseling over it because it got so bad. I knew Seattle was part of the autonomous zone. I knew that Seattle brought in the porta potties and the sanitizing stations and gave these guys barricades so they could keep out the police department and wanted to turn over the building. I knew Seattle was part of it. I did not know that the federal government was funding it also. Did not know. But we know that the Tides Foundation was getting money from USAID. And the Tides Foundation was funding BLM. What's fascinating to me is that BLM actually sued them at one point, saying, you didn't give us all the money you promised us. Only a percentage of it. This is an article from Bloomberg. This is from Bloomberg Law back on May 7th of 2024. BLM nonprofit said the Tides Foundation mismanaged $33 million because they were supposed to be getting it. And whether or not the exact amount of USAID money was being used, it doesn't matter. It's all one giant fund. So when you get the money from USAID, our tax dollars from USAID, you are funneling it to BLM. You are funneling it to the guys that were burning down this country, that caused billions of dollars in damage. Dozens of people were killed across the country, including 2 teenagers right here in the autonomous zone in Seattle. How much pain, how much suffering. Hundreds of police officers were injured. Thousands if you factor in how many of them got injured twice, or 3 times, or 4 times. The U.S. government funded that insanity with our tax dollars. And then, let's fast forward a little bit. They were still giving them money last year. Last year, they were still giving them money. And who were they funding? The Hamasniks on campuses. You remember this article? This one here from the Washington Free Beacon. An activist group backed by Progressive California funding powerhouses urging high schoolers across the country to join a Walkout for Gaza protest on Wednesday. Suggested chants include Israel, Israel, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide and free Palestine. These groups were funded by the Tide Center, were funded by George Soros, who are all getting money from USAID. USAID was implemented under JFK to be do-gooder, heal the world kind of stuff. And the more we find out about it, the more corrupt it was. It's supposed to be, we're going to combat communism by paying these countries to like America by giving them things. How does any of funding terrorists who are burning down the country help America's interests? How does funding actual terrorists in the Middle East, people supporting terrorists in the Middle East, and groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Hamas, how does that help America's interests anywhere? Literally anywhere. And we were funding it. According to Just the News Today, before the Trump administration closed USAID's doors, the agency regularly routed funding to causes aligned with George Soros' nonprofit empire, terrorists and drag queens. The agency came under scrutiny from the new administration over failures to ensure transparency in its funding to organizations across the globe and concerns that the leadership was not responding to explicit policy directives from the State Department and the wider executive branch to align its programs with Trump policies and the U.S. national interest. In recent days, the Trump administration identified USAID programs ranging from contraceptives for Afghanistan to LGBT diversity programs for European countries as clear evidence that foreign aid needed to be paused and reevaluated, a task that fell to the Rubio State Department. The development agency for years also funneled money to several nonprofit groups that also received substantial backing from components of George Soros' empire. Some previously came under scrutiny during the Obama administration for democracy promotion and judicial reform efforts in European countries that critics claimed promoted leftist politics. For example, U.S. government spending records show the East-West Management Institute, which in part is backed by Soros' Open Society Foundation, received more than $260 million over the years in grants from USAID to, among other things, promote the rule of law in Georgia, strengthen civil society in Uganda, and advance Serbia's accession talks with the European Union. The same nonprofit group came under scrutiny during the Obama administration after Judicial Watch uncovered governmental records and communications showing that the East-West Management Institute's Justice for All campaign in Albania received $9 million in funding from USAID. The assistance concerned several GOP senators who sent a letter to the newly appointed Secretary of State Rex Tillerson in 2017, alleging the campaign funded by the U.S. government helped craft an Albanian judicial reform proposal that may give the prime minister and left-of-center government full control over the judiciary. The same senators also raised concerns about a similar Soros-backed program in neighboring Macedonia, where they said a local affiliate called the Foundation for Open Society Macedonia received backing through USAID through the Open Societies Foundation and pushed a progressive agenda. Other Soros-backed organizations that received funding from both his Open Society Foundations Network and USAID included the Anti-Corruption Action Center in Ukraine, yeah, that worked real well, and Transparency International, which was anything but. According to the group's own records, the Anti-Corruption Action Center began receiving funding from USAID the same year the Maidan Revolution overthrew Ukraine's elected Russian-friendly President Viktor Yanukovych. The group also, by its own admission, was heavily critical of Yanukovych's government and ministers, which aligned with U.S. Department policy at the time. During the 2014 Maidan Revolution, then Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland visited Ukraine and was recorded on a leaked phone call discussing how the United States could influence the formation of a new government in Kyiv. What else were we funding? We were funding all this insanity. All this insanity. This article goes on and on and on. House Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Brian Mast of Florida flagged other examples, including $15 million for condoms sent to Taliban-controlled Afghanistan and over $3 million for being LGBTQ in the Caribbean. I mean, the amount of stuff we were spending money on is absolutely insane. But for me, what jumped out is that we were funding BLM through the Tides Foundation. Through the Tides Foundation. And we were funding Hamas. And we were funding the Taliban. And we were funding Al-Qaeda-attached groups. How does any of that promote U.S. foreign policy around the world? It seems like it's actually working exactly against us. And the left is out there protesting. All these Democratic senators like Chuck Schumer and all these Democratic Congress people like AOC are protesting this. Why? Because we found out what the deep state actually is. It's paying everybody to promote a progressive agenda. This is what the deep state is. And they are furious that we found their progressive piggy bank. And they're losing their minds over it. Absolutely losing their minds over it. What's wrong with an audit? Isn't sunlight the best disinfectant? Because that's exactly what's going on. But they funded all that insanity on our streets. Here in Seattle, in New York, in Los Angeles, in Chicago. Not just during BLM, but with the Hamasniks. They funded that insanity. They were working against our own government. They were working against our own allies. Here's what Caroline Levitt had to say today about all this.
Going through the federal government line by line and making this government more efficient is one of those priorities and one of those promises that President Trump made. And as you just cited, John, 56% of Americans support freezing foreign aid. And I read a fascinating article in the Washington Post today. They interviewed voters in Pennsylvania, and all of them said that they support President Trump and Elon Musk's efforts to make this government more efficient. What President Trump and Elon Musk and this entire administration is trying to do is make our bloated bureaucracy here in Washington run like a profitable business. And every agency has been tasked with going line by line and ensuring that the American taxpayers' money is aligned with the American people's interests. It's a common sense solution to fixing a decades-old problem of bloated bureaucracy, waste, fraud, and abuse, and the vast majority of Americans support it. So the Democrats can hoot and holler all they want. This White House will stay committed to delivering on President Trump's priorities and being good stewards of the hardworking American people's tax dollars.
She's 100% right. I don't know anybody, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, liberal, or conservative, that doesn't think that the government is filled with pork and waste. All of them do. The far left crazies like it because they think the government should have all the money and you shouldn't have any money. And look what they did with it. Look what they did with it. Made all of our lives worse. How many times? The COVID insanity, we paid for the stupid lab to be operating to unleash a virus on all of us. And what did that do to all of our lives for those 2 years of absolute craziness? This is what our hard-earned money, which we give to the government, was used for. I don't think I can ever forgive the people who did this. I don't think I ever can. The amount of pain and suffering they caused to so many people. How many people lost their jobs because of the COVID insanity? How many people lost their businesses? How many lost their lives because they killed themselves because you took away their businesses? How many kids had learning loss? How many kids developed mental problems? And then the BLM craziness, the complete unrest for months in 2020 was all being fueled by outside donors. The Hamasniks on the streets chanting for a terrorist organization that raped, tortured, murdered over 1,200 people, injured thousands more, and kidnapped 250 people. All this was paid for and funded by U.S. taxpayer dollars. And now the left is going bananas because we're actually exposing that. So what does the left actually stand for right now? It's not freedom and hope and progressive values. Maybe these are progressive values. Hamas, Al-Qaeda. I haven't seen the left this mad. I haven't seen Democrats this mad since we took away their slaves. That's what they're upset about right now. That's what they're upset about. Their radical agenda is being exposed. Their piggy bank is being shattered. I don't know anybody who doesn't want to cut the size of government except for socialists, communists, and Marxists. They're the ones who are out on the streets right now. They're the ones who are mad. I don't know anybody else who's mad about this, and I got a lot of liberal friends. They're all begrudgingly admitting that they're enjoying this. Not to the same extent you and I are, but they're all begrudgingly admitting that they are enjoying this. And you know what? They've gone back to the same failed thing. Oh, let's impeach Trump. Trump's the devil, Trump's the devil, Trump's the devil, Trump's the devil. It ain't going to work this time. The guy won the popular vote. And he's only getting more popular because he's doing populist things with his executive orders. Wait till Congress starts passing laws. Wait till all these nominees are confirmed and they start pushing legislation in Congress for the populists. The Democrats are being forced to be on the wrong side of every single issue. And for my friends out there who identify as Democrats, I want to know what it's going to take for you to realize this party doesn't represent you anymore. I really want to know that. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Because if their priorities are funding the riots on our streets, are funding the things that are making our cities less safe, that means their priority is them and not you. So what's it going to take for you finally to walk away from this party? Because they have made it clear that for them, America is last. America is last for them. But not just that. You're even farther behind that. They just want their own virtue signaling. They want their own petty priority policies pushed out there, and they want to spend the money on this craziness. That's what they've been doing. You know, it's like Captain America, the Winter Soldier. When Captain America finds out that Hydra took over S.H.I.E.L.D. and that they've been the ones behind all the wars that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been trying to combat, that Captain America's been trying to combat, that's what this is like right now. We found Hydra. And out in the streets are the people who represent Hydra, who are just losing their minds. That's finally been exposed everywhere. My friends, this is what the deep state is. This is what the enemy is. And this is what has been making all of our lives miserable for God knows only how long. Your own tax dollars were being used against you. I want to know what you're feeling about this. I want to know what you think about this. I want to know how upset you are about this. Or, hey, you know what? Maybe you think, oh, that's just government is government. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, the show goes on, and car theft is miraculously down. Gee, I wonder if that's because we finally started enforcing the law. Give you all details on that when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. I know a bunch of you are ticked off about this USAID thing, but don't forget, we got your chance to win fantabulous prizes and good news coming up at the end of the show at 5:45. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right at the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. We go to formerly the other Jay in Olympia on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Jay, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, great monologue. So I am wanting to be, angry and fired up and excited and animated and all that good stuff. But this victory that I feel that we have is a 40 years in coming. And I referenced the scene from the Return of the Jedi, where Admiral Akbar on the bridge, as he's watching Darth Vader's Superstar Cruiser crash into the second Death Star, that he lowers his head in humble gratefulness that this is happening. And this is how I feel, because it's been 40 plus years in the making since the Reagan years, where we've wanted to do these things. And now everything seems to be coming together, whatever you want to call it. The stars are aligned, or we've got the magic of the Orange Man. But it's happening, and I am just so grateful that it is, and I hope we don't stop until we get it all done.
What a great analogy. What a great analogy. I'll tell you something in real life that I can compare it to a little bit, because I'm right there with you. My father, even when he was back in college, was fighting against affirmative action because he believed it was racist. And even back then, when my father was in college, he's like, this thing leaves out Jews. It leaves out Asians. This thing is literally racist and demeans everybody. And of course, affirmative action was the early forms of DEI and critical race theory and all that garbage. And I remember my father calling me when it was finally gone and the Supreme Court finally shot it down last year, and he had that kind of sound in his voice, the same one you're talking about, describing Return of the Jedi. And I got to tell you, like, as mad as I am, as furious as I am, when I find out all this pain and suffering that didn't just affect me, but affected thousands, if not millions of people around the world, not just here in the U.S., it really is such a breath of sunshine that we're seeing, a breath of fresh air, that we're seeing it happen in real time. I mean, I used to joke that we lived in the most ridiculous timeline, but now it seems like we live in the most awesome one.
It is, because how many Bothans died to get the plan? So they all finally came together.
Excellent, excellent, excellent analogy. Jay, you can call this show anytime with Star Wars references like that. That was stupendous. Jay, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Jack and Graham. Jack, what's up, man?
Hey, I was just wondering if you looked into that Wikipedia where they've censored all conservative outlets and given liberal, progressive outlets a free rein in what they say and what they do.
So if you're talking about GARM and the other agencies that were censoring news outlets and giving them ratings and stuff, that's all been shut down, and a lot of it shut down after Donald Trump got elected. So that's been being undone. One of the reasons that Mark Zuckerberg said we're going to stop restricting content and such is because they know where Donald Trump's going to go, and he's going to come after them. However, given the fact that I got banned from YouTube, I forgot to mention, I lost my appeal this week. I am officially gone for good from YouTube. Now, luckily, we're still streaming the show through KVI's YouTube, but the censorship is still going on. Google, which owns YouTube, has not said it's backtracking on anything. In fact, I would say that a lot of the liberal-controlled outlets are doubling down and doubling down and doubling down, much to their own degradation. Look what's happening. Politico, which got over $16 million. $16 million in government money. Politico today releases a statement which is like, we didn't really get the money. Oh, wait, we really did get the money. It's just through this other way we got the money, but totally trust us as an unbiased news agency. So the censorship is still going on, and certain people, like in Washington, D.C., are saying, resist, we're the resistance, just like what's happening here in Washington State. So, Jack, it's better than it was. It's not fixed yet.
Well, Wikipedia's got into it, too, and done some investigation on them.
Well, here's the thing. Wikipedia is a corrupt mess. And the thing is, it's crowdsourced. There's this ongoing war about all the Israel stuff in Wikipedia, where the Jews will update it, then the Palestine people will update it, then the Jews will update it, the stuff on October 7th is crazy. You cannot trust Wikipedia as an accurate source for anything. I know it's supposed to be the internet's encyclopedia. It's just not. Jack, appreciate the call. Appreciate the perspective. You want to be part of the show? You give us a call, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Chris in Bonnie Lake. Chris, what's up, man?
Afternoon, buddy. So I got two things for you. Number one, I'm like you with this whole USAID thing. And as we know, this is not a partisan issue. I want every senator and congressman, Republican, Democrat alike, investigated, because they sat back while all of this happened, approving budgets for USAID and the like. And you imagine if all of that money, and I know they're all saying, oh, it was only 1% of the budget. It's still billions of dollars. Imagine if that money had been spent on our infrastructure, on our roads, on our education system, everything.
Yeah. You're 100% right. You are 100% right, Chris. And they say, oh, it's only 1% of the budget. But here's the problem we have. The problem we're going to get into is if all this stuff in USAID was allocated by Congress in these massive omnibus spending bills, that's law. We can't undo it without passing a law to stop it. This is the stuff we have to look into immediately because it may be harder to cut than we know. The swamp is very, very deep. Chris, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show today. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call, 206-421-5757, or text us at 206-421-5757.
So before we go to break, Ari, I want to go back to Other Jay's comment earlier about Return of the Jedi and, how many Bothans died. You know how many Bothans died? One. His name was Manny. Manny Bothans died to bring us this information.
Oh, very good, Mike. Put a smile on my face with all this craziness. Over on the text line, Johnny says it's worse than America Last. They want America to fall. Yeah, you could make that argument, and it isn't just superfluous anymore. It isn't just insanity. That's really what it looks like. Here's another one. This one here from Just Bob. Says, Ari, I truly hate the term progressive. I agree. I think it's regressive. USAID isn't funding progressive ideals in conjunction with its allies, both here and abroad. It's funding overtly anti-American ideals and movements. Shameful. And not one mention of these facts on Seattle legacy news media. Just comments about how Trump is illegally dismantling altruistic and wonderful USAID. And that's not only shameful, it's disgusting. While old Representative Marco Leas wants to pay him $20 million in state funds to continue. Yeah, and we have, what was that operating budget? What was that budget deficit we have? Somewhere between $12 and $16 million they'll admit to, which means it's even higher than that? Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And by the way, the media should be ashamed of themselves. You know what the legacy media around here in Seattle should be doing? They keep writing these puff pieces. Oh, the homeless shelter may lose its funding. It's never they're actually getting cut. You know what they should be doing? They should be looking at where the waste was here. Coming up at 5:15 today, I got council member Mark Solomon, brand new council member, coming on the show. Him and I have a long history going back years. And I asked him if he's going to call for an audit of Homeless Inc. And you get to hear his answer at 5:15 today during the show. Make sure you're still listening. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. Coming up next, Democrats filibuster all night, and nobody cared at all. In fact, I'm going to make fun of them a lot. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Let me be very clear about what happened last night in the Senate. The Democrats do not have the votes to stop Russell Vought from being appointed to become the head of management and budget, the OMB. They do not have the votes to stop it. So instead, what they did was they tried to stage a filibuster to show how brave we are. We're so brave. We spoke for 30 hours about how terrible Russell Vought is. You would have thought this guy was like a descendant of Nazis, a Nazi company, who was just manufacturing superheroes that were really awful people when they weren't pretending to save people. Yeah, that's a boys' joke for those of you who don't know. Vought. Anywho, can't believe I have to telegraph that. That's a great show. I mean, it's a messed up show. It will scar you for life, and children should never watch it. But messed up show on Amazon. But seriously, they spent 30 hours, and I love how almost nobody covered it in the media. Sure, the lamestream media went, oh, they're so brave, but they really buried those stories with other things because the Democrats cannot keep up with Donald Trump. They just can't. The record-breaking pace he is setting makes me want to go to the gym. I don't like going to the gym, but I'm just like, Donald Trump has like saved the world each day in a different way, and I'm sleeping until 8 o'clock today. I feel super lazy watching the guy who's, how old is Donald Trump now? What is he, 76 or something right now? And he's almost 80. And I am in awe of how much energy this guy has and all the things he's getting accomplished right now. I mean, it absolutely is mind-blowing, and the Democrats cannot keep up. Ready for this? Would you like to hear their resistance post from yesterday? You're going to like this one. Ready? This is from the official Democrats' Twitter account. There are 10 things that House Democrats are doing to fight back against the Trump administration. Fighting any Republican attempts to steal taxpayer money via the upcoming government funding bill. Steal taxpayer money? What do you mean steal taxpayer money? You guys are the ones who have been squandering it and spending it on things to make our lives worse. The hell are you talking about? You want to know Donald Trump's tax priority? Here, Caroline Levitt laid it out today.
So these are the tax priorities of the Trump administration that the president has laid out for members in that meeting today. No tax on tips, which is obviously a very public campaign promise that the president made. No tax on seniors' Social Security. No tax on overtime pay. Renewing President Trump's 2017 middle-class tax cuts. Again, these are the president's priorities. Adjusting the SALT cap. Eliminate all the special tax breaks for billionaire sports team owners. Close the carried interest tax deduction loophole. Tax cuts for Made in America products. This will be the largest tax cut in history for middle-class working Americans. The president is committed to working with Congress to get this done.
They don't mean steal taxpayer funds. They mean cut taxes. You have to learn to speak Democrat. It means steal the money they were planning on stealing from you. Whoa, hang on. Did Donald Trump just become Robin Hood? He steals from the rich and gives to the poor. Isn't that what's going on? He's giving it to the middle class? I've seen that movie a couple times. I saw the one with the Robin Hood with no English accent when everybody else has one. I saw the one making fun of that Robin Hood. I saw the other one with Russell Crowe that sucked. That was awful. I saw the new one with Eggsy from Kingsman, which I may be the only one. I really like that stupid movie. I know it was terrible. I know it was awful. That terrible, awful movie with Jamie Foxx was made for me. Oh, sure, we've got machine gun arrows in the 1600s, 1400s?
I was going to ask you if this was the one with the machine gun crossbow or whatever it was.
It's terrible, but it's, you know what it is? It's Battleship terrible. It's Battleship. It is so bad, I will watch it. It's like that Dukes of Hazzard movie, the first one. I will watch that stupid movie, and not just because of Jessica Simpson. I mean, that's a nice bonus. But I will watch the you-know-what out of these stupid movies. These, as a friend of mine says, Ari, you don't like film. You like movies. I go, yes, that is 100% correct. All right, what else do the Democrats have here? Drafting legislation to prevent people from, like Elon Musk, from illegally accessing systems containing highly personal information of taxpayers, including Social Security and Medicaid receipts. Well, guys, I love how you say these career bureaucrats are trusted with them, and yet every other day all these numbers are being exposed. On top of that, you guys used our money to fund things against us like terrorism. I'm more worried about you people having access to this information than Elon Musk having. Oh, by the way, Elon Musk already owns all our lives. You know why? We're all on Twitter. They already know everything about us, as does Zuckerberg and everybody else. No, they just want Musk to stop exposing them. Musk is the one who's exposing all your corruption. Speaking directly to the American people about Republican plans to raise the already high cost of living from grocery to fuel and cars. Whoa, did you just admit that you raise the cost of living? That's what I think I just heard out of you guys. Detailing ongoing and anticipated litigation efforts to combat Trump's unlawful executive actions. So brave, so bold. Working with outside experts to expose Republicans' schemes to rip off taxpayers. I think they exposed your schemes to rip off. You know what it is? This is like that old teacher of mine in third grade. I had this teacher, very Israeli fellow, but he would say, when you point at a person, when you point, you see your finger, 3 fingers coming back at you, 3 fingers. Whenever you point, 3 fingers coming back at you. So we would just point with 5 fingers all at one time, point it out that way. Yes, my Israeli accent impression is absolutely terrible. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. Chris Rakedahl and Nick Brown are trying to put boys back into girls' sports to brutalize women. No joke. This came down just right before the show. We'll give you the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Remember, my friends, we are streaming this show video live every single weekday right here on Rumble and on Facebook and on the X. That's right. If you want to see this beautiful face and this receding hairline, you can check it out at those platforms. And we're on the KVI YouTube account as well. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Stilgar in Renton. Stilgar, what's going on?
Oh, Ari, I appreciate your passion. It's a little bit like when Mrs. Stilgar and I start getting spun up.
Oh,
which,
good. Okay. I was worried where that was going. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
good job.
yeah.
Mrs. Stilgar called us a few days ago. She called us a few days ago.
I know. I heard she played it for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Love it.
Excellent.
Maybe she'll do more of it. We'll see.
Fantastical. What's up, man?
Yes. Anyway, she. So I think a lot of what we're struggling with is the fact that you, I, most of your listeners, most of the people we know are loving, moral people, many of whom are people of the book and who look at and are God-fearing and don't comprehend the evil that abounds in this world, that we just don't associate it with it. We just don't basically believe it's out there. And so until we can start saying, hey, the spirit of Molech is alive and well. We're killing tens of millions of babies. We're mutilating children. We're crushing their innocence in school. We're doing, and I say we as a society, they're doing all these evil things.
Oh,
but
yeah.
people say, it's
just government. It's just government. It's fine. Yeah. Stilgar, we don't do the devil in Judaism. We have Satan, Satan. It's more like your evil inclination. But these people are literally doing the devil's work. That's literally what's going on with all this stuff we're exposing. It's thing after thing after thing after thing. And it takes a lot of work to stop the devil. It really, really does. In fact, later today, at 5 o'clock, we're going to be discussing the remarks Donald Trump gave at the prayer breakfast today, because those were amazing, because I think Donald Trump realizes that too. Some of his remarks were talking about what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, and how we need to be a more God-fearing country. I have to say, I haven't heard a president like Joe Biden, for example. I gotta, is that a church? Is that a mosque? I go to synagogue. I go to a church. I go to a mosque. I go everywhere, right? That was not a guy who anybody put their faith in him. And I got to say, first term Donald Trump, that wasn't really a man of faith. Did he like Christians? Sure. Did he like Jews? Sure. But we're seeing a very different Donald Trump, and his remarks at the prayer breakfast were amazing. Stilgar, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. Remember, coming up at 5 o'clock, we are going to discuss those remarks and play some of the audio for you. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Scott in Issaquah. Scott, what's up?
Hey, Ari. Well, I just got done doing my taxes, and it's been a nightmare.
You crying yet? That's what I do. Yeah, I cry after the taxes. I don't even drink. I just cry. Yes.
Yeah. Well, so I started brainstorming again. I was thinking, there's one way we could probably make everybody happy, even the liberals. I think Trump should get rid of the IRS, and we have a flat sales tax, 10%, make it so you can't change it. And whenever you purchase something, it just automatically goes right into the government. They get it that day. They'll probably get more money than they're making now.
There's actually been a lot of analysis over the flat tax idea, and it's fascinating to see how that actually goes, how that goes down. And I actually think you're right. I think you'd have a lot less problems, and you wouldn't need to spend as much money. I think that's a great point, Scott.
Well, yeah. Well, there's tons of but I think that the top 1%, like the richest people, should still pay an income tax, and I think the corporations should also pay an income tax.
Okay, so that's not a flat tax then. If you want to say the corporations have to pay the flat tax, and the rich people got to pay the flat tax. Okay.
We got to make everyone happy,
Scott, you scared me for a second there. You scared me for a minute there. I thought you were drifting to the other side. Come back from the darkness. Come back, Scott.
Well, I'm talking about the 1%ers. The 1%ers, these billionaires, it's not going to hurt them to pay a 20% income tax.
Oh, don't do that, Scott. Now you sound like them. You were doing so well, Scott. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Got about a minute left. Adam from Sumner, make it quick, buddy. What's going on?
Seeing some things on social media from Washington GOP and Let's Go Washington, something about a rally this month. I'm wondering if you've heard anything about this.
A rally this month from Let's Go Washington. Hang on a second. Let's see what's going on. I haven't seen it yet. There was a rally. They were talking about a rally a couple days ago, which they had at Olympia. You sure it's not that one?
This one is dated for the 15th, which is Saturday at noon.
Saturday at noon. I'll tell you what, Adam, I'm going to reach out to them right now during the commercial break we got coming up. I'm going to reach out to them, and I'm going to ask them about it to see if there's anything on their website. And if there is, I'll talk about it on the show. So yet another reason for you to always keep listening to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. Oh, wait, Mike may have saved us, Adam. Here we go. Okay, here's what we got right here. This is from the Washington State GOP. This is the parental fight for the parents' rights, fight for the Washington Constitution, noon on February 15th at the state capitol on the North Steps. So, yes, that's what it is. They got it right there.
Okay, good. I wanted to confirm that, and let's just say, guys, it's a Saturday. Be there.
Exactly right. I can't be there, but you should all be there. Everybody else should be there. I'll give you a video or something. Adam, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to weigh in on this exciting day, you give us a call, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, we'll tell you how Chris Rakedall, creepy Chris Rakedall, and Nick Brown are trying to put boys back in girls' sports because they're the resistance to Donald Trump and, you know, most of America who voted for him. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Joe Biden and his administration apparently didn't want to offend terrorists by actually calling them terrorists. But before we get to any of that, yesterday we were discussing how Donald Trump signed the executive order to keep men out of women's sports, keep boys out of girls' sports. And I hadn't seen the video of the signing. I just saw the picture after the signing when Donald Trump has all these girls gathered around him, and I go, wow, whoever choreographed that thing did an amazing job. I didn't realize it was Donald Trump. If you go watch the video, which I posted up on my social media, I put it over on my X account at the Hofffather. I put it up on Ari Hoffman official on Facebook and Instagram. What happens is everybody's behind him, like you see in all these political signings of whatever. All these girls from sports are behind him, like Riley Gaines, but also all these little girls. And Donald Trump he must be a great-grandfather. I don't mean a great-grandfather like he has grandkids who have kids. I think they're a little young for that. But he must be an excellent grandfather. This is a guy who genuinely loves people. This is a guy who genuinely loves kids. And it was amazing for him to go, all right, come on in. And then for him to go, I don't think it's a threat to the Secret Service. I don't think you're a threat, but the Secret Service is losing their minds. And then giving out the pens and smiling at everybody. I mean, complete opposite from creepy Joe Biden, who's sniffing the hair and eating the feet and all that, trying to seem like the grandfather. So all of us have different kinds of relatives, right? And there's the relatives you want to see, and there's the relatives you're like, oh, God, right? You can see the difference right here. Donald Trump goes golfing with his grandkids. Joe Biden doesn't want to admit some of his grandkids exist. That's Joe Biden. The difference between him and Donald Trump. This thing was almost universally celebrated yesterday because this resonates with the American public. The American public goes, this is insane. Boys should not be in girls' sports just because they suck at boys' sports or just because they've got something wrong with their wiring upstairs. Now, the NCAA followed his example and they announced today that collegiate sports organizations have updated their transgender student-athlete participation policy, barring biological males from women's division. Quote, the new policy limits competition in women's sports to student-athletes assigned female at birth only. The policy permits student-athletes assigned male at birth to practice with women's teams and receive benefits such as medical care while practicing. They say the policy change is effective immediately. As well it should be. Now, there were a lot of people who invested a lot of time and energy into this. I mean, Riley Gaines, that's how we know her. She had her championship stolen by Leah Thomas or Brad or whatever his name was originally. I'm not gonna call him whatever stupid name he identifies as. That's ridiculous. But she lost her championships. We had girls here in Washington who lost championships to boys. You had girls who were horribly injured. Look at that dude in the Olympics who's beating the crap out of women. It's really messed up. And you would ask, who would defend this kind of stuff, especially since overwhelmingly, the American public is on this side by every single poll. And it's not like 50%. It's like 60, 70, 80% in poll after poll after poll after poll. So why would you support this insanity? Why would you do it? It's absolutely crazy. Now, mind you, this is the stuff that the Democrats here in Washington have decided to say, oh, we're going to push back against this. We're going to resist this, even though it's overwhelmingly popular, even though it's common sense. Why? Because it's Trump, and they're trying to make names for themselves. So, Washington's Attorney General, Nick Brown. So, if Turd Ferguson is number one, this guy's number two. So, he is working together with Washington Superintendent of Public Instruction, Chris Reykdal. Now, Chris Reykdal has done such a stellar job. He's overseen a massive learning loss where 79% of kids can't do math and over 60% aren't at reading level. They're now working together to make sure that boys can continue to brutalize girls in women's sports. This came out from the Seattle Times just as we were going on air. Chris Reykdal, Washington State Superintendent of Public Instruction, blasted the executive order signed by President Donald Trump on Wednesday to ban transgender students from competing in girls and women's sports. They're not transgender students. They are boys with mental problems. Rakedahl issued a statement Thursday saying Trump's executive order directly contradicts state law and that we are working closely with the Attorney General's office to understand the next steps for our state and for our school districts in response to this unlawful order. One thing is clear, the 47th President of the United States is disregarding the rule of law by attempting to unilaterally impose an attack on the specific student groups that anti-discrimination laws aim to protect. No, he's saying boys shouldn't be in girls' sports. Also, good luck with those civil rights violations because, my friends, Donald Trump just put back all those civil rights protections regarding gender that the Biden administration had messed with. So good luck with that. Those Title IX exemptions, yeah, it's gender assigned at birth, as the Seattle Times calls it, which means you're born a boy, you're born a girl, not assigned at birth. Yes, God goes, I'm assigning this. Give me a break with this nonsense, liberal lunacy. So, Donald Trump does the right thing. Chris Rakedahl and Nick Brown want to make a name for themselves for being the resistance. Nick Brown is addicted to suing Donald Trump already. He's already turning into Turd Ferguson. How has any of this made our lives any better? How has anything Nick Brown, Bob Ferguson, or Chris Rakedahl done made our lives better here in Washington? No. It's just, we're the resistance. What are you resisting? We don't know, but Trump bad. That's what it is. You know, can we have a real discussion over the trans thing for a second? This is an article from CNN. This is from CNN. Here's what it says. Oh, wait, let me go back and do the date on this for a second. Ready? This was published Thursday, May 7th, 2020, before this stuff really went out of control. For some, the universal human desire for wholeness may only be fulfilled by an act of excision. New science is showing how specific parts of the brain may differ in those with the rare but fascinating disorder known as body integrity dysmorphia, or BID. Those with BID appear, by objective standards, to have healthy bodies, but they cannot shake the insatiable feeling of incompleteness. In order to be their full selves, they must remove or amputate a limb or other body part. The condition is believed to be driven by a mismatch between someone's mental picture of their body image and their actual physical self. One way to explain it physiologically is that in BID, the part of the brain associated with body image has less functional connectivity with other parts of the brain, according to a study published in the Journal for Current Biology. Researchers recruited 16 men who wanted to remove their healthy left legs from a support group website for men with BID and compared scans of their brains to 16 men without the condition. We show clear associations between a mental state and changes in brain structure and functionality, said Peter Brugger, a professor of neurology and neuropsychiatry. I can't do medical terms. This is why I'm not a doctor. At the University of Zurich. Those with BID had noticeably different neural architecture in the paracentral lobule, the part of the brain that controls how we feel and interpret feedback from lower limbs. The area had reduced connectivity to other parts of the brain. The right superior parietal lobule, an area used to construct one's total body image, also had reduced connectivity and a reduced density of gray matter, indicating less neuron activity. So, the study says the feeling that a limb belongs to us relies to the extent which a sensor motor limb area is functionally connected to other parts of the brain regions. Having enough gray matter in the right parietal region of the brain is necessary to create a healthy perception of the body in space. Quote, interestingly, we found that less gray matter in the right parietal region of the brain, the stronger the desire for amputation, the more BID individuals acted as if they were amputees. Now, this is from CNN. This is not from anybody in my little black book of the right-wing media cabal. This is CNN. So how did we go so far afield? We're saying wanting to cut off your anatomy is not something to be celebrated. It's something that we actually need to fix in your brain to, cut off whatever you want. In fact, we're going to fund it with government money. Why is Chris Rakedahl freaking out? Why is Nick Brown freaking out? Because Seattle Children's Hospital stopped doing these surgeries that butcher kids for a lifetime with these irreversible procedures that a lot of people are now showing that they regret And on top of that, has not led to a reduction in suicide because something is wrong. It's like body dysmorphia. You look in the mirror, you see something else. I wonder if I have it. I wake up every morning and go, who's that old guy? I used to have hair. Wait, I don't think that's the same thing. But this is a real condition. And instead of treating it, we're saying, yeah, let's go along with it. You know, this is a condition that they originally discovered among veterans. Veterans who felt that they hadn't served because they hadn't lost something because so many people lost something in the war. This was a condition among veterans. In fact, Matt Walsh in the What is a Woman movie started asking one of these trans surgery doctors about this, and they didn't have a good response to it because this is a real condition. It's in DSM. That's their Grey's Anatomy for the mind. That's what DSM is. Same kind of deal. And yet they don't want to discuss it. But Nick Brown decides he wants to use these kids to score political points. Chris Rakedahl, he can't get kids to read or write in this state. The educational standards suck, but he decides, wait, I need some good PR because everybody's talking about how much it sucks. So let's go after Trump. Let's go after Trump. That's what Washington is going to do for the next 4 years. Washington, D.C. and Washington State. We're the resistance. We're fighting back. We're the resistance. You guys suck. You're on the wrong side of history. That girl, that 16-year-old girl, wanted to cut off her breasts, wanted to have Seattle Children's Hospital do it for her, and it got stopped. She got saved by Donald Trump. And her parents are comparing him to a Nazi, comparing him to Hitler, and saying they have to flee the country over it. That's what they told the stranger. No, I think the parents have mental disorders too, where they think something like, yeah, let's cut apart our perfectly healthy child. You know, people said all the time, are you happy you had boys first? You happy you had girls first? And sure, I wanted boys first because I wanted, rough around and play baseball and all that. But I realized very, very quickly that when my wife was pregnant the first time, it was, I just want 10 fingers and 10 toes. Yes, I did a little happy dance when I found out I was having a boy, and I did a little happy dance when I found out I was having another boy. And then by then I'm like, I really need a girl around here. It's a lot of male energy. It's a little rough and tumble around here. We really do need that. But you just want 10 fingers and 10 toes. Anybody who's a parent understands that. You want 10 fingers and 10 toes. And us parents, when the kids start driving, you're like, when are they getting home? Is my car in a massive wreck? And these images, I don't know about you, but I know about me. Oh my God, is the kid okay? Oh my God, they took the car again. And this is every day because now they're driving themselves to school. Oh my God. Right? That's how us parents think all the time. I know we seem cool and calm and collected on the outside, but we're not on the inside. We're wrecks on the inside. Oh my God, there's a boy. There's a boy and he's interested in my daughter. Where's my gun? Let me grab it as soon as possible. That's how we think because we worry about our kids. We just want them to be healthy. We want them to be safe. I don't care what gender they are, but this is a thing where these parents are subjecting their children who don't know any better. They should be saying, you know what, let's get you help. Just like you have another medical condition, just like you have a mental condition, let's get you help. Instead, they're going, yeah, let's cut this stuff off. We don't know what the long-term ramifications of this, and tons of other countries have banned it, but sure, let's go ahead and do it. Chris Rakedahl, Nick Brown, it's horrible that they want boys who have mental problems competing with girls. It hurts the girls, and it encourages the mental problems in the boys. There is no upside for this except with the far-left progressives who think that this is normal. It's not normal. Where are all the leftist groups? Where are all the women's feminist groups that should be saying, no, we need to protect women's sports. We fought so hard to have women's sports. Look, you want to have a trans league? Have a trans league. That's fine. Nobody's saying not to have that. Nobody's saying they shouldn't be playing sports, but we're saying we want a level playing field. Everybody should play their fair share. I think I've heard that somewhere before, right? Isn't that from the left? Yes, play your fair share. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. Nick Brown, Chris Rakedahl, should be ashamed of yourselves. Absolutely ashamed of yourselves. And parents, you should call their offices. You should call their offices. You should email their offices and saying, you guys are on the wrong side of history. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from John in Lakewood. John, what's up, man?
Oh, hey, Ari. I was listening to your monologue earlier, and I was outraged. I can't get my head around that. It's just so huge. But, there's another deep state that's not necessarily government. It's the not-for-profit NGO deep state of sorts. And I'm going to illustrate this by saying, first of all, in Ireland, you had the Irish Republican Army trying to, fight against Great Britain for independence, combat, all that stuff. They had a civil face. That was Sinn Féin with Jerry Adams. And I think that some of these very large not-for-profits are the civil face of groups far down the line that are the street criminals and the violence.
Well, that's what we're seeing.
Here, I'm looking at
John, that's what we're literally seeing in these breakdowns. They keep revealing these organizations.
Yeah, and I'm seeing something right here. And now I don't qualifier here. I don't want to. I'm not trying to cast any aspersions on Latinos or anything like this. But I want to point out. I'm going to show you one thing right here. I'm looking at Alliance for Gun Responsibility. Okay, that was on. They were on John's show yesterday. Okay, I get their point of view. They want to stop gun crime and stuff like that. Okay, fair enough. You got your point of view. We have our points of view. But you look at their partners. There's a group called Latino Civic Alliance. Okay, click on that. Decent organization, trying to help people, programs, schools, stuff like that. You click on their website. There's something called La Resistencia. You look at the homepage of La Resistencia. There's a bunch of people out there, and their whole mission is to get rid of that deportment center in Tacoma. That's their mission, and they're out there with signs. Prisons and deportations are the crime. See, my point is, you have these beautiful faces of these big civil not-for-profits, and all this money's getting washed around.
Oh, yeah.
And it's out there funding
think about this, John.
Criminality.
Right. Think about this, John. Think about Homeless Inc. here in Seattle. Homeless Inc. is doing the exact same thing. Oh, we're helping the homeless. You're not helping anybody.
No.
You're making the problem worse.
Right.
In fact, John, you gave me a great opening to mention one more time that coming up at 5:15 today, we have our interview with Councilmember Mark Solomon, who just got appointed to the Seattle City Council. And I asked him when we recorded the interview earlier, I asked him if they're going to do an audit on Homeless Inc. And we got that answer coming up for you then.
I hope so. And here's the thing. Can I say one more thing? I know you got a lot of
10
callers
seconds, then we got to go. Yeah, go ahead.
We have to stop not-for-profit, make everybody reapply, and open your books and everything.
Well, that's like the Palestine Chronicle here in Washington, the nonprofit whose quote-unquote journalists were holding hostages in Gaza. Yeah, John, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Speaking of Hamas, by the way, when we come back, my friends, the Biden administration apparently didn't want to use terms like jihad because they thought they might offend the terrorists. I can't believe I even said those words. We'll give you the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and two tickets to see Darius Rucker at the Washington State Fair. Yeah, no, the reason always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Well, I've been watching this documentary on how they make Saturday Night Live over on Peacock. It's a series. I'm enjoying it very, very much. It's great. And actually, it kind of makes you sad at the same time because you remember when Saturday Night Live used to be funny? And they even find ways of making the not funny times seem funny in this documentary. Well, Israel's got a version of Saturday Night Live. They've got their own version. It's called Eretz Lanetzach. And this show has been killing it. Really just doing a great, great job for a while now. And you sometimes wonder, why are all the funny people over there? It's really a good show. So what do? They have a new commercial that's out with this Jewish comedian who's been making a lot of skits and stuff and become very popular since October 7th of calling out Hamas and all the insanity. And what they call out is they call out the Red Cross. The Red Cross hasn't done jack squat to help the hostages. Instead, what do? They show up as glorified Uber drivers to bring the hostages just over the border so Israel can do what it has to do. And they called this out in a commercial they made for the Red Cross.
When you've been away for a while, you want to be taken home by someone special. For those once-in-a-lifetime moments, we proudly introduce the Red Cross Ride-Share app.
It's all the Hamas next rioting in Gaza right there with the hostages that I've seen on TV.
Red Ride for hostage? Am I saying that right? Hey, do you want a water or like the aux cable or anything?
It's about time. Where have you been? Why didn't you bring medicine, humanitarian aid, a sign of life to my family?
No, we don't do that anymore. We pivoted to just being a rideshare app. It's pretty cool.
Aren't you the Red Cross?
Yeah, we cross between Israel and Gaza. It's kind of our new thing.
What?
Simply download the app, book your ride, and we'll be there within 15 months.
Am I going to see my family now?
Of course. We just need to make one teensy pit stop and go do a ceremony in front of a bunch of terrorists where you guys smile and wave and pretend like you're old friends from sleepaway camp. Is that cool?
Red Ride. We'll be with you the entire 200 meters of a ride literally anyone else could have driven.
All right, we're here. If you could just rate the experience, it really helps. And no pressure, but Hamas always gives 5 stars.
You.
Yep, probably deserve that.
Red Ride. It's like Uber, but with a Nobel Peace Prize.
So true, by the way. So true. The Red Cross, doubling down on the same mistakes you made during the Holocaust, covering up the entire thing. Now, mind you, at University of Washington yesterday, UW Jewish alumni sent me this video because the Hamasniks were out in force. And while they were there, they were chanting for actual terrorism on the college campus and, in fact, glorifying Yahya Sinwar, the former head of Hamas, who was taken out by Israel. That means terrorists.
Glory to the resistance! We salute the resistance, the prisoners, and the people. We salute the resistance!
Check the phone. Check the phone. What's the next chant we're supposed to do? Check the phone. Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah, that's one that's really hard to remember. I got it. You set the bar in terrorism? That's what. Wow. Wow. Just wow. Okay, these idiots at University of Washington have no idea what they're saying. Or maybe they do. I'm not sure which one is worse. Check the phone. Check the phone. Oh, no, what do I say next? I don't know. Idiots. Absolute brainless, mindless drones of stupidity. Unfreaking real that this stuff is still going on at University of Washington after all the Title VI violations. I got a statement from UW. We understand the chants and signs during a protest on Wednesday evening were deeply hurtful to many, particularly members of the Jewish community on our campus and beyond. While the First Amendment protects such speech, the university must uphold protesters' right to speak. We absolutely condemn the celebration of violent organizations and individuals that was on display and is not representative of UW or its students. Really? Because you guys were rated among the top 5 most anti-Semitic universities in the entire U.S., it is representative of your faculty and your students. And here's something else. You guys do have a code of conduct. You guys have a code of conduct, and you are not restricted entirely by the First Amendment. Your own code of conduct says you can't incite violence. And there you are supporting a terrorist group. Well, I mean, I guess I should be happy that UW condemned it in some fashion. They didn't used to do that. They used to just say, First Amendment, First Amendment. At least they condemned it a little bit. Meanwhile, according to the Washington Free Beacon, when the Biden administration resumed funding to the United Nations Relief Agency for Gaza, remember they refunded them? You remember that after Donald Trump cut it off? It penned an internal memo aimed at defending UNRWA over its production of childhood education materials that encourage violence and demonize Israel. Some of those materials include references to jihad and the Israeli occupation, terms that the Biden State Department wrote are in line with UN principles and only viewed as inappropriate by some other audiences. Yeah, only some people think when they call for jihad it's bad. Only some, those Jews. Yeah, nobody else thinks that way, right? The memo obtained by the Washington Free Beacon through a records request from watchdog group Protect the Public Trust came roughly 2 weeks after the Biden administration restored tens of millions of dollars in funding to UNRWA in April 2021 following a pause during President Donald Trump's first stint in the White House. Written by Deputy Assistant Secretary Nancy Izzo Jackson for Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, it addressed examples of criticism targeting UNRWA and laid out the State Department's response. It said in their educational materials section that UNRWA made home learning cards based on the Palestinian Authority's educational curriculum to supplement textbooks sent home during the COVID pandemic. Some of those cards, according to a January 21 report from research firm Impact C, includes encouragement of violence and accused Israel of deliberately dumping radioactive and toxic waste in the West Bank. No proof of that, by the way. That's what they say. By the way, why are you mad about that? Don't you get superpowers from that? You shouldn't be mad about that. UNRWA, the State Department wrote, had already removed or changed the content before the report's release. Shortly thereafter, Impact C issued a follow-up report that identified additional problematic cards, including references to jihad and violence in Arabic language lessons for grades 6 and 9, as well as references to the Israeli occupation. Do you see this nonsense? This is the stuff they're pushing in schools. It's a death cult. And if you think it's limited to just the West Bank or Gaza, it's not. Columbia University has a flyer they are pushing around called the First Intifada and Mass Organizing. How to not alive a Jew, it says right here. I'm sorry, what does that mean? You mean how to kill people? That's the flyer they're pushing out. That is the flyer they are pushing out at Columbia University. That's the insanity we're dealing with right now. So Columbia, University of Washington, none of these schools have learned your lesson. Not a single one. Basically, people should start filing those Title VI violations all over again. They should start suing all over again, because otherwise this cycle just continues and continues and continues. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. It was a good day in the Washington legislature. It was also a horrible day in the Washington state legislature. I'll give you all details when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder that if you want to see this beautiful face and this receding hairline, head on over to Rumble, Facebook, and X, and you can check out the show, which we are live streaming video of every single weekday right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, it was an absurd day in Olympia. Absolutely crazy. The good, the bad, and the smelly, because they couldn't stop talking about cow farts. Today, state Republican lawmakers couldn't hold in an opportunity to float their criticisms of a new bill being proposed in Olympia. The bill would aim to monitor methane produced by cows, legislation that has wafted from other parts of the country. Republican Representative Mark Clicker suggested that other forms of methane production could be silent but deadly as well.
I can guarantee you somewhere in this room there is methane being produced.
Yeah, he's 100% right. In fact, that wasn't all he had to say.
Would you consider maybe entering language or an amendment that would include possibly studying the same thing at every Seahawk game, Mariner game, Kraken, Sounders game, and if we need to, put a head charge on people for that? I think we could capture and bring money to enter it into the CCA.
This dude definitely understood the assignment. Perhaps he just wants to cut the government cheese spending. Democrat Representative Lisa Parsley, who dealt the legislation, still hopes to pass this gas bill, explaining why cow emissions are so different than those of humans.
Cows are herbivores. Their diets, their bacterial population within their gut is radically different than ours. So the amount of methane produced through their eructation and flatulence, or burps and farts, are going to be different than ours.
This is actually a conversation going on in the Washington State Legislature, my friends.
Monitoring is not going to be looking at individual cows' farts.
Really? What are you guys going to be doing?
We're not going to ask farms to put things around the cows to measure how much they're emitting.
I can't believe we're talking about this. Thank you, young Zach, for putting all that together because, yeah, I know some of you go, Ari, there's too much bathroom humor on the show. My friends, this is in the Washington State Legislature. This is the literal BS that they are talking about while you guys are saying to yourselves, my life is only getting more expensive, and you guys are talking about cow farts. This was an actual discussion in the Washington State Legislature. Mike, can you do me a favor? Can you reach out to our friend John Satgast? We've got his email somewhere. And ask for Representative Mark Clicker to come on the show. Would love to have him on to discuss the cow farts. Because bonkers crazy that this is even a discussion. Now, in the good news in Olympia today, House Bill 1501, which would have required liability insurance for gun owners. This is the one you were all freaking about, by the way. Our friend Anthony Mixer sent this over to me, telling me that it won't be considered this legislative session anymore. Huge win for the Second Amendment. This is the one that they were going to charge you insurance on every single firearm you own of like $25,000. Yeah, this was really, really dumb. In other good news, Anthony also sent me this, House Bill 1140. Which is the school choice bill, which we spoke about with Representative Travis Couture, had its hearing this morning in House Education. By the way, this is a good sign. The fact that it even had a hearing, usually they go, nope, we don't even want to talk about it. Nope, not going to have it. Now, if you want to support this bill, here's what you can do. You can sign in online, or you can call the legislative hotline at 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. And what you want to do is you want to say yes to House Bill 1140, the school choice bill. Remember, that's 1-800-562-6000, 1-800-562-6000. Say yes to House Bill 1140. Call in and say yes to that. Meanwhile, a new poll is out, and it revealed that Washingtonians blame the Democrats for the projected $12 to $16 billion budget shortfall that the legislature's out-of-control spending has actually caused. So it's great that the voters are actually seeing that. So why'd you vote for the same fools for elected office? You know what I think this is? What I'm worried about with this poll is it's like the polls we see of Congress. Well, I don't like Congress, but I like my Congress person. I'm a little worried it's something like that. So according to the poll, which was conducted by Fulcrum Strategic and EMC Research, it found that 59% of voters believe the budget deficit is a result of excessive spending rather than insufficient revenue. While 76% believe the legislator has sufficient funds but needs to manage them more effectively, 56% oppose taxes to solve the budget crisis. Mazel tov. I mean, I can't believe it took this long. Additionally, 76% of voters say the state legislature has enough money to address important priorities, and they just need to spend it more effectively. 65% of voters do not trust the legislator to spend their tax dollars responsibly, and almost all voters, 90% plus, believe that doubling of the state's spending over the past decade has not had an impact on key quality of life issues such as the cost of living, cost of housing, and homelessness. The survey showed how out of touch Washington Democrats are with the electorate as they propose increasing taxes to bridge the state's budget gap, projected between $10 billion and $16 billion. An overwhelming majority of voters believe it was a bad idea to drastically hike spending to fund state programs that help address homelessness. Oh, you think? Because they're not working at all? Create more affordable housing, improve education, and provide affordable health care for Washingtonians. According to the survey, prior to hearing any messaging from pollsters, 59% of voters say the projected state budget shortfall is due to the legislature's failure to control spending. The poll also revealed that voters overwhelmingly believe our state has failed to make meaningful progress on key issues, including the cost of living, homelessness, public safety, and K-12 education. They also found that 71% of voters are concerned about the state economy and the availability of good-paying jobs. Exactly right. So instead of dealing with any of that, would you like to know what the Washington legislature is doing? They're trying to ban wood-burning stoves. That's right. They want to ban wood-burning stoves, probably because they haven't found a way to make money off it. They want all of you to be on the gas one, so you have to buy the propane, and the propane gets taxed. Oh, wait, no, they're going to ban the natural gas. Oh, you need to go electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. That's what they want you to do. So here's what I want you to do. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to call the legislative hotline at 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000, and say no to Senate Bill 5174. That's 5174. If you can't remember the bill number, you just say, I don't want to ban wood-burning stoves. Be very nice to the person on the other side of that line. They are just doing a job. They are not the legislature. So call 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000, and say no on Senate Bill 5174. And by the way, my friends, I'm getting reports from Olympia that our efforts are working, that they're having issues with the phone lines, that they're overwhelmed with the amount of calls they're getting because there's so many bad bills this session. Keep up the pressure. And if you haven't called yet, everybody's doing it. Get on the bandwagon like I do when the Seahawks are good. Get on the bandwagon and call the legislative hotline and say no to this insanity. Do it right now. 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a quick call from our friend Mario. Mario, buddy, only got about a minute. What's going on?
Who the heck votes for these people? With all the issues our state has, and they're talking about cows instead of like major issues, like you said, cost of living, electricity, important things like the terrorist sympathizers in University of Washington. The only other comment I will have for you, my good friend, is that I don't know how much the University of Washington costs because thankfully my kids are out of school, all of them already. But if I was a parent, I ask for my money back.
Yeah, exactly right, because this is the craziness they're allowing on campus. Mario, appreciate the call, buddy. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, young Zach and I had the opportunity to go see Hamilton at the Paramount Theater, and we weren't expecting a political VIP. We'll give you the details of who showed up and did it ruin the performance or not. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Last night I had the opportunity to go check out Hamilton at the Paramount Theater. Unfortunately, my daughter got a little sick in the middle of it, and I wasn't able to stay the entire time. But luckily for me, young Zach was able to go the night before. And Zach, what'd you think of the performance?
Well, you know, it got off to a shaky start when their diversity hire, Governor Bob Ferguson, took the stage.
Wait a second. So what is Bob Ferguson, the whitest white man in the universe, doing on stage at Hamilton? In fact, I remember when that sucker was recruiting for people in New York, they said, white people not allowed to apply.
You know, he wasn't going to throw away his shot, I guess. I don't know.
Very good, Zach. So what did the good governor have to come out there and talk about?
You know, to be honest, I was in the urinal. Which is, I think...
Wait a minute. They pipe that sound in there.
Yeah, but I was tuning it out. I don't do my best active listening, you know.
Well, there were some write-ups after Governor Ferguson came out and was talking about how it's all about the resistance and how this musical is about the resistance.
I heard
blah,
some
blah,
of it.
blah.
It's what a excellent testament to democracy and so forth and what have you, and that was fine, I guess. So.
Yeah, I guess a bunch of people just don't get where all the Hamilton, Madison, all the founders felt on immigration. It looks like they're trying to push some things they don't really get what that means. That was what they were talking about.
Yeah, I got some bad news about some of those characters.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Anyway, but what'd you think of the show itself?
Well, you know what? I had kind of mixed opinions. I had never seen it before. I had seen the version that you can stream on Disney Plus, and of course that features the original cast. So that's different level. You couldn't compare a touring show to the original cast that I get to watch at home on the TV. However, to be honest, I'm not the biggest theater nut. I'm not, you know, didn't almost graduate with a degree in it like you did. And so, you know, I thought it was okay. I thought the musical Hamilton is incredible. I thought the performances were lackluster, but I walked away thinking, wow, this is so well written and it holds up, and it really is musical spectacular that everybody has said that it is, that you can have what you could have told me was a local cast, a Fifth Ave theater cast or worse, perform this show and it still be captivating for 3 hours.
It is a long show, and I'll say this as a theater guy. So Lin-Manuel Miranda has talked about how he wrote this thing. He talked about how he based it on The West Wing, how he based it on the musical 1776, how he based it on the book about Hamilton that he read, and he put this all together. In fact, if you know what you're looking for, there are references throughout this thing to all of that. Not just, well, obviously the book, but there's references to 1776. There's even some jokes in there. The reason John Adams is not in the musical is Lin-Manuel Miranda was asked about that, and he goes, it's been done. They did it right with 1776, so why was I going to do the same thing? For me, I watch this thing, and I can recognize the brilliance in it, and I can also recognize that I don't like hip-hop music. So for me, my favorite character is the king, who's the only one who doesn't sing in hip-hop, which is really bad that I'm on the side of the bad guy in this whole thing, especially against America. But it is a brilliant work. Whether you like hip-hop or not, it is a brilliant work. And I actually recommend you go see it, even though I'm not the biggest fan of this show, because I can recognize the amazing intricacy in the writing and how they utilize everything and how they throw in political jokes and how they made politics fun. And even if they're going to push left-wing talking points in it or whatever, just like the West Wing, you can screen those out. You can ignore them.
I didn't even pick up on them, so.
Exactly. See what I mean? You can just...
you show up, just use the bathroom when the governor's on stage. And show up for the show, and you'll have a great time.
Well, I think that was a one and done, but big thank you to our friends over at the Paramount
He doesn't
Theater.
have a residency.
Oh, no, I should hope he doesn't have a residency. Oh, God, if this becomes a thing, we're going to have to reevaluate going to these things. But Hamilton is playing now through March 2nd at the Paramount Theater in Seattle. You can get your tickets over at Paramount Theater, ParamountTheaterSeattle.net/Hamilton. You can check it out over there, and I just want to say you should go check it out. Whether you agree with the politics, whether you don't agree with the politics, it's a fascinating look into American history through a unique perspective of hip-hop.
And if you can't make it out to the show, you can't get a ticket too far to drive. Hate Seattle, we all do. No problem. Yeah, go ahead and stream it on Disney Plus. It's worth a watch.
And actually, I'll tell you something, is if you go back to Lin-Manuel Miranda's posts when that thing first launched, He wrote about it because it was during COVID when that thing came out, and he wrote about what would be
No,
going
it was
on.
not.
Yeah, it was. They launched the musical on Disney Plus
Oh.
during COVID, not the musical itself.
I'm saying it's been 10 years.
No. So they launched the musical on Disney Plus, and Lin-Manuel Miranda actually writes up what would be going on backstage as if it was happening in real time because it was this virtual experience, and it's actually very entertaining. You should check that out. Anyway, go see Hamilton over at the Paramount Theater now through the beginning of March. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and 2 tickets to see Darius Rucker. But before we get to any of that, President Trump is definitely a changed man since the assassination attempt. And I think this change in him helped him win the election. Now, let's go back in time for a little bit. Some of you are about to get mad at me for what I'm about to say. I never really thought of Donald Trump as a religious man. And that's fine. Not everybody has to be a religious man. Not everybody has to be like me. I don't care. What you believe in is what you believe in. But it always felt like Donald Trump's religious stuff was a little performative. And you know what? Okay, fine. I shouldn't judge how somebody else practices their faith. But I remember Donald Trump, you remember during the 2020 riots when they set fire to that church in Washington, D.C.? And Donald Trump goes out there and holds up the Bible, and I'm here. Now, he was trying to send a message of, you know, you can't beat religion, and we're going to defend religion, and you Antifa bastards suck, and all that, whatever it was. I get that. But at the same time, it kind of felt performative. When I saw the first commercials for the Trump Bible with Lee Greenwood, it's like, oh, and watches, and NFT cards, and sneakers, and guitars, and it's just another thing to sell. But he's not that guy anymore. In fact, I think I told this story from the RNC of what happened. So what happens is the first night of the RNC, don't forget, it's 3 days after the assassination attempt? Not even. So let's see. Hang on. Let me make sure I got this right. The assassination attempt was on Saturday. And then on Monday, we see Donald Trump on stage. 2 days later, you hadn't seen him. No rallies, no nothing. He comes on stage. He's got that gauze pad on his ear. And the room is electric, but you got Lee Greenwood singing God Bless the USA, which is his entrance music. And you saw a very different Trump as he entered the room. He was more humble. He was more emotional. His kids, who could take anything, they're like Teflon or crying. I mean, it was an amazing moment. Historical moment. Amazing moment. Whether or not you like Donald Trump, it was an amazing moment. So I remember the next day, it's me and Jeff Pogula from Northwest News Radio and John Carlson, and we've got our little booth set up. And I'm there all day, every day. I think I got 3 hours of sleep a night during the RNC. I was exhausted. So what happens is, we're there, and young Zach goes, "Hey, Ari, it's Lee Greenwood wandering around. You want me to get Lee Greenwood for you?" I'm like, "Yes! Get me Lee Greenwood. Bring him over the table. I want to talk to Lee Greenwood, singer of God Bless the USA." Plus, he was on stage for that historic event. Oh, and by the way, that man does not lip sync. And he still sounds the way he did originally. That man's voice has not changed, and it's really incredible. So Lee Greenwood comes over. We have a nice talk. We have a nice chat. And then he had a few of these Trump Bibles, which he made with Donald Trump. And they also have the Declaration of Independence, and they have the Constitution in them, and they got all this stuff. And they're leather bound. They're beautiful. They're really, really nice books. And we had a nice talk about Israel, and we had a nice talk about faith, and it was really a good I didn't expect to have this kind of conversation with Lee Greenwood. But he was really sweet man, really genuine, nice, sweet guy. But he signs a Bible for me, one of his Bibles, and he gives it to me as a gift. Now, he only had a few of these, so I'm very honored that Lee Greenwood gave me one of his Bibles, puts a little cross in it, so I can't put it on the shelf with my other Bibles. We had to move that one over a little bit, but I put it with my political books. But either way, it's on the shelf in my office. I was actually joking around because later in the day, one of the people from the Republican Jewish Coalition came for an interview, and he says to his guy with him, he goes, "Wait a second, don't we have something for Ari?" And the guy pulls out this stack of cheap velvet yarmulkes, just a stack of them. And they hand me one of these red ones that I got for free at their convention last year. But okay, I'm like, "Oh, thank you. That's very, very nice." And then he goes, no, wait, I got a special one for you. And he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out a crumpled version of the same yarmulke. He goes, "This is the one I wore on stage tonight when I stood up for Israel." I'm like, I appreciate the gesture, but afterwards I go, okay, I think the Christian gift is a little bit better than the Jewish gift in this case. But getting back to the original point, Donald Trump really is a more spiritual man now, and you can see it. So this morning was the National Prayer Breakfast. And Donald Trump was actually talking about how much the assassination attempt had a religious effect on him.
Honestly, it changed something in me. I feel even stronger. I believed in God, but I feel much more strongly about it. Something happened. So, thank you.
By the way, you can hear it in his voice and how he talks. It was all bluster last time. It was all bluster, and it was easy to tune him out because it was all bluster. It's so much more genuine now. So there's different levels of Trump. There's always been different levels of Trump, but it's so much more pronounced now. I'll tell you something right now. I have not always been the biggest Trump fan. I really haven't been. And it's not because of whatever it is. We've discussed this many, many times. Right now, me and many other people who are not on the Trump train would like walk through fire for this guy. Really would. At this point, there's nothing he's doing I disagree with, but not just that. He's a more genuine human being. Here we go. Controversial take of the day. I don't think if Donald Trump had won a second term in 2020, we would have gotten this Donald Trump. I think it would have been more of the chaos and everything else. And yeah, we would have gotten some things, but it literally was a trial by fire. Trial by fire. So what's happening is the left has for so long tried to remove God from the U.S., and Donald Trump's putting him right back in.
Thomas Jefferson himself once attended Sunday services held in the old House chamber on the very ground where I stand today. So there could be nothing more beautiful than for us to gather in this majestic place. It is majestic, and reaffirm that America is and will always be one nation under God. At every stage of the American story, our country has drawn hope and courage and inspiration from our trust in the Almighty. Deep in the soul of every patriot is the knowledge that God has a special plan and a glorious mission for America. And that plan is going to happen. It's going to happen. I hope it happens sooner rather than later. It's going to happen. And it's His hand that guides us every single step of the way. And all of you and the things we have to do is to see the defining role that faith and prayer have played in the life of our nation. And you just have to look at this building, and you can look at each other. You can really look at each other. It's defined almost everyone in this room. I think faith has been very strong with the people in this room.
This is a very different President Trump, and I love this President Trump. I liked the old President Trump, but I love this President Trump. I remember when they signed the Abraham Accords, you had a whole bunch of Jewish people there, and it was time for afternoon services, and they did it right there on the White House lawn. Right there. It was amazing. But our entire religion, look, the presidents go to Mass before they get inaugurated. We've got "In God We Trust" on our money. One nation under God. The founders were quoting biblical principles in their writings on the Liberty Bell. It's a quote from Leviticus. Look, they didn't have Google back then. They had to know it said that in Leviticus because the printing press, there was still a limited number of books, my friends. That meant they were religious. Religious meant to quote Leviticus, the most boring book of all the books, and I've read them all many, many times. That's the quote they got it from. So here, my friends. This is Donald Trump very clearly saying, no, don't be afraid to be religious. Don't be afraid to show your faith. Even if your faith is agnostic, just be out there and be who you are. I mean, this speech was inspiring. This was religiously inspiring.
From the very beginning of our republic, America has always been a nation founded by people of faith and strengthened by the power of prayer and united by four simple but very beautiful words: in God we trust.
There's actually a funny moment at the Roanoke convention. So I took my wife for the first time. And we're at the Roanoke convention. She doesn't go to political events. She doesn't get political. She doesn't do politics, nothing like that. But we're at the Roanoke conference, and the opening night, what do? They do the prayer and they do the Pledge of Allegiance. And what happens is at the end of the prayer, it's like, and in Jesus' name, amen. It kind of throws you when you're Jewish the first time you hear it because you're just not used to it. He's not in our book, right? So my wife says to me, she goes, that was new. And I go, get used to it. That's going to be all weekend at Roanoke. That's that kind of stuff. It's fine. It's fine. But it's the kind of thing where every time I go to a Republican event, God's always there. God's always there. And I'm not saying God's not around us when we go somewhere else, but the Democrats, here's something weird the Democrats do. I've been to Democrat meetings, and when they say the Pledge of Allegiance, I don't know if they still say it, but I know they used to say it even when things were getting kind of crazy. The last time I went to a Democrat meeting was in 2019 when I was running for office. They say the Pledge of Allegiance, but then when they say, and justice for all, they repeat, and justice for all, as if it's about the justice. It's a very weird thing that they do, but I realize very clearly what they're trying to signify. Oh, we were wronged, and we want justice. And I'm looking at this and go, it's about America, not your problems. We can take our problems. You know the old saying they say is that when you get together with a group of people and you all have your problems and you lay your problems out on the table, like 5 or 6 people around the table, and you say, okay, exchange problems. Everybody's going to take back their own problems because everybody else's problems are worse or different or whatever, but you know how to handle your problems. Donald Trump was just talking about how we can make this nation great again and do it by being religious people.
After years of decline, Americans are reasserting our true identity as a people ordained by God to be the freest and most exceptional nation ever to exist on the face of the earth. But we weren't that for 4 years. I don't believe we were. And we're getting there very soon, very quickly. I'll be able to say it, and we'll be able to say it again. As I said in my inaugural address 2 weeks ago, a light is now shining over the world, the entire world. And I'm hearing it from other leaders. I'm hearing it from leaders that have traditionally not been on our side, that there's so much more, there's such a good feeling in the air, so different than it was just a short time ago. Because here in America, we are once again a nation that believes in ourselves. We believe in our destiny and trusts in the providence of Almighty God.
You know, there's something else. I hate to sound like a bandwagon fan, but I said this to Mike. Right when the guy got inaugurated and the left started coming out, I'm like, I'm not in the mood to play defense for Donald Trump every day. I'm just not. Can we talk about the issues? Now, I don't feel like I'm playing defense for Donald Trump. I feel like I'm fighting on his team. It's a very different feeling, whereas before it's like, well, I'm a conservative radio host and we want these things to happen and they're just going to demonize Trump. No. Now it's, I want to fight for this team. I want to play on this team. I want to be part of what is happening because there is something in the air and it does feel special. And Donald Trump's gift, when I spoke to Donald Trump, when he called the show, that charisma radiates through the phone. There's a reason supermodels marry this guy. And it's not just the money, my friends. He is so charismatic that it came through the phone. Before talking to him, before having the formal interview, after having the formal interview, he makes you feel like you are the most special person to him in the entire world. Really, really does. He's very, very good at that. But he's also good at doing that in a room full of people. So he was addressing the Christians. He was addressing the Jews in this room. He was addressing everybody who was in this room. And it was truly, truly amazing. So here's what he did for the Christians, and this was great.
To confront such weaponization and religious persecution, today I'm signing an executive order to make our Attorney General, who's a great person, she's going to be a great Attorney General, Pam Bondi, the head of a task force, brand new, to eradicate anti-Christian bias. About time, right? Anti-Christian bias.
Like, for example, somebody who protests shouldn't be thrown in jail just for peacefully protesting outside an abortion clinic because they believe a certain way. Now, you get rough and ready like the Antifa types do, and you start assaulting people and vandalizing things, that's a different story. But our faith has been demonized for so long. You have people in the streets who are marching to kill Jews. You have people on college campuses who are marching for the deaths of Jews and Christians. They want the entire land of Israel purged of anybody who isn't Arab. That's what they're calling for. What did Donald Trump say today? He said something really, really amazing. He called out one of the hostages who was freed from captivity by the Israeli army.
For 245 harrowing days, Noah showed unwavering strength and courage and faith as she endured the unendurable, really, what she went through. But by the grace of God, she was rescued by the Israeli Defense Forces, and now she's come back to pray with us this morning, and it's such an honor to have you, and you're really an inspiration, Noah, to all of us. Thank you very much.
You want an inspiring thing? I'll give you this. Mike knows my dietary restrictions for the kosher stuff, right? Okay, and, around here I complain about it because I can't have a muffin or whatever's dropped off, whatever garbage is sitting in our break room on any given day. Agam Berger, who's one of the Jewish hostages, she tried her best to keep kosher and Sabbath while in Hamas captivity. She was recently released. You don't know where your next meal is coming from. You don't even have to keep kosher under those circumstances. And she tried. She tried to keep the Sabbath as best as she could while in Hamas captivity. While a lot of people would have said, God, why have you done this to me? How dare you? I don't believe you anymore. She said, how can I worship you more? Maybe that'll be the path to getting me out of here. Donald Trump also addressed the rest of the hostages.
We're joined today by several brave families whose loved ones were taken hostage during the October 7th horrible attack 16 months ago. And I know I speak for everyone here today when I say that we're keeping you in our hearts and our prayers. And it's a very traumatic situation, very tough, as the people know that are here with us. One way or another, it's going to work out. It's going to all work out. As president, I will not rest until every remaining hostage has been returned to their families. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Also with us is an incredible survivor of October 7th who was held captive by Hamas for more than 8 months. Noah.
Yeah, so that's the kind of things he was talking about, was that he's not going to rest until he gets all the hostages back. That's not the way we used to hear this stuff talked about from Joe Biden. It wasn't at all, and he could have done it at any point, but he just didn't. Instead, he was letting USAID fund Hamas. This is a different country. This is a different Donald Trump. This is a different electorate. Ones who go, all right, you guys had your chance at crazy time. Now the adults are back in the room. The adults are back in charge. And you know what? We are a country under God. We are a country of faith. We are a country built on Judeo-Christian values. And you guys who keep trying to flush all that down the toilet, no more. Because we tried it your way. And everything went to hell. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from George and Kenmore. George, what's going on?
Hey, George, the Navy guy here. My squadron actually, when they weren't rescuing the Samuel B. Roberts or running the minefields, I did that 4 times. When Iran was bad the last time, Strait of Hormuz, 88. They flew the Bob Hope last show, and it was on aboard the USS Midway, and that's the place where Lee Greenwood first sang that song that became national notoriety, of course, being on the last Bob Hope show.
Well,
so you can all Google the last Bob Hope show, and you'll see that.
I was about to say, George, now you got me where I'm going to go look that thing up and see if I can find a video of that, because that's something I would love to play on the show. George, I appreciate the story. I appreciate your service. Thank you so much for being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And when we come back, my friends, our friend Mark Solomon, new Seattle City Council member, comes on the show. We ask him what his plans are for Seattle. Will there be an audit of Homeless Inc.? And him and I have an entertaining exchange over our past. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. My friends, I've been looking forward to this interview for a very, very, very long time because I got my start in radio because I ran for office, because I got involved in Seattle politics, and is a long, winding road of how I ended up with the show. But at some point, I was running for office, and this guy beat me to advance into the general election. And at the time, I was kind of sore about it, but I think everything worked out for the best. When I saw his name being up for consideration for the Seattle City Council, I was thrilled. I was ecstatic. And then when he got the job, I didn't think I could be even happier than that. Joining us now on the KVI studio line, council member for the 2nd District of Seattle, Council Member Mark Solomon. Thank you so much for being with us today.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Ari. I'm still trying to get used to that title.
Well, I got to say, this is something you've wanted for a long time. This is something I think you've actually deserved for a long time because you truly care about this city. I know the great work you did working for the Seattle Police Department, being a community safety officer because you care about the safety of the community. I think it's great that they appointed you. What do you hope to accomplish for the time that you have in office?
Well, realizing that my time in office is limited because I did make a commitment to be a caretaker in the seat. That being said, I don't intend to just sit around and collect dust. There's a lot of things I do want to get done. The pressing thing that's in front of us right now is this comprehensive plan. We had a meeting last night that went like 5+ hours from people making comment about the plan and what it would do to their neighborhoods, and we still didn't hear from everyone who wanted to make comment. So there's going to be other opportunities for comment. But there's a requirement regarding House Bill 1110 that we have to do, and there's a deadline by which we have to do it that's kind of driving the comp plan stuff. So, the comp plan, big deal. We got to do it. We have no choice. Personally, the things I'm wanting to do is really address the issues around Little Saigon, the public safety issues there. At the same time, there's other public safety issues I want to address, and they're not all necessarily police-related issues. For example, traffic safety on Rainier Avenue between Rainier Beach and the city limits. We've had people who have had their homes driven into by out-of-control speeding cars. Their car's been damaged. I want to work with Department of Transportation and those neighbors to see if we can do some kind of traffic calming along Rainier to reduce the number of incidents that are occurring. Something else I want to get done, and this is pretty much already teed up, there's legislation regarding regulating our after-hours entertainment establishments. They currently fall into a gray area that really no one has oversight of them. And, definitely want to change that because we've seen the amount of violence that has erupted around these locations. And so from a public safety standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint, definitely want to get a handle on that. And one thing that I really want to see if I can get done, permitting reform. I remember somebody telling me that Seattle doesn't have a housing problem, it has a permitting problem. And I know from personal experience trying to get a project permitted on my own property, trying to build a standalone shed, how long it took me to do that. And if we can reform the process regarding permitting to make it easier for builders to actually build, that's one of my goals. Is let's make it easier for people to build in Seattle as opposed to getting so frustrated with trying to do stuff in Seattle that they build in unincorporated King County or Bellevue or Redmond. Let's make it easier to build here.
So since you are my council member, and since I don't normally get to go to public comment, I was in construction for years. And let me tell you one story that illustrates the permitting problem. We're trying to build a youth center on the synagogue property. Doesn't affect traffic. They make us get a traffic study. It says we need more parking spaces. We don't drive on the Sabbath. Then they say they want the lights to automatically turn off in the building for some kind of green requirement where we can't turn them back on the Sabbath. I had to get letters from rabbis at multiple points to illustrate these things. Then they made us dig a moat around the building. I kid you not, a moat around the building for drainage, even though we had already addressed all the drainage issues. Then at the end of the program, they came along and hit me with $25,000 for bike lanes that were basically just little stick figures drawn on the streets that nobody ever actually rides bikes on. So when you say there's a permitting problem, I 100% agree with you, and I'm more than happy to be the poster child of what they did to our synagogue to illustrate that.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like, and I've told the story many times. We were trying to get a 12 by 16 shed installed in our backyard, right, so that it would be an art studio for Suzanne.
Mm-hmm.
Took me 7 months to get the permit for a shed.
So, for those of you who don't know, Councilmember Solomon and I go way, way back, and his wife is a wonderful art teacher. In fact, she's the art teacher for my kids in their school. So I got to say, like, this is absolutely insane that she wanted a she shed in the backyard for art, and it took 7 months to get the thing built.
Oh, no, it's not a she shed. It's a me shed.
Oh, very, very good. So you were talking about House Bill 1110, which is about upzoning in certain areas that are usually single family. So are you talking about accessory dwelling units, or are you talking about, building big complexes? Because then it's actually going to create a bigger affordability problem, because a developer is going to come in and say, hey, your property's worth a lot more if I can get 10 units on the thing. And that's what happened in Vancouver and actually priced people out.
Yeah, and the whole thing about affordability is a concern for me, as is anti-displacement. I mean, come on, we both live in the South End. We both have seen the density that's along Rainier Avenue, but density doesn't necessarily mean affordability, right? And at the same time, we know that not every neighborhood, and we realize this, not every neighborhood is going to be welcoming of 6, 7, 8-story unit apartment buildings plopped down in their neighborhood. And what I'm looking at is, well, what makes sense for that neighborhood? What community input from those neighbors have we heard, and how is that informing the decisions we make as to how this plan moves forward? Because we got to have more housing. There's no question. We have to have more affordable housing. We have to have more housing at 0 to 30 AMI. At the same time, that housing needs to be spread out throughout the city, not just concentrated down in the South End. We've got a lot of low-income housing in the South End. It doesn't all need to be in the South End. Let's share the wealth on that. Just as I mentioned before, we got a lot of density along Rainier, but is that density affordable, right? I also want to make sure that people can stay in their homes. I want to make sure that we have homes for families because, when you have families, you have kids, that's going to activate your neighborhood. That's what makes a neighborhood special, is when it's populated by a wide variety of people, by families, and not just, studio apartments.
Sure.
We need to have those options.
Right. Now, council member, before we let you go, in the last few minutes we have the council member, Mark Solomon. There's 2 questions I ask every single city council member in the rare instances we get them on the show, and thank you for agreeing to come on so quickly. There's 2 questions we ask every single council member. Question number 1 is, will you call for an audit of where all the money's going for in Homeless Inc.? Because I don't think anything's really going to change in public safety or homelessness until that's done. And then question number 2 is, when we ask you to come on the show, can we be seeing you more often?
Okay. Well, answer to question number 1 is yes, because we're spending a lot of money, and I'd like to know what are we getting for our return on investment, right? So if we have programs out there, I think it's fair for any elected to say, what are we spending? What are we spending it on? And what are our measurable results of that? So, I've heard somebody say, I'm about the documentation, not the conversation. Show me what you did with the money that we gave you, right? So, 100% on that. Show me what you did with it. And if what you did with it isn't what we paid you to do, then maybe we look at giving that money to someplace else or reallocating it to a program that's actually effective. Second thing, will I come back on the show? Absolutely.
Awesome. See, this is great. I'm not as scary as everybody thinks I am. Fantastic. So, council member Mark Solomon, congratulations on your appointment. I am so, so happy for you. I could not think of a better person and a more committed person to fill that role. So congratulations, and thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Hey, and can I say one more thing?
Sure, go ahead.
I have a little bit. Okay. And I'm actually, glad I have this opportunity to say this. I owe you an apology. When we were doing our campaign in 2019, man, you got beat up more than I did. And I remember that candidate survivor thing that happened, and the question was asked of me, would you accept Ari Hoffman's endorsement? And I said, oh, no, I want Ari's voters, right? And they pressed me on it, and I said no. And I regret that, because I felt that you got a bum deal from many different areas. And rather than, having, just accepted that, okay, yeah, they're beating Ari up, and I'm not really going to say anything. I know your character. I know you're a good dad. I know you're good with kids, and I should have pushed back on them and say, hey, you know what? Quit beating up on the guy, right? He's a great guy. He's a committed father, and I regret not doing that and standing up at that time in that forum.
So I appreciate that, and I'm going to tell you something. We're going to keep this love fest going for another minute here. I owe you an apology because you called me after you beat me, and I was in no mood to have any conversations about endorsements or anything else. And I wonder that if I had endorsed you, even though we had a few disagreements here and there, things might have worked out differently. And in fact, I said as much on my show just a few months ago. I was actually discussing this very issue when it came to some things going on inside some party politics. So I think that this is an amazing moment where you and I can have this conversation. And it means the world to me that you actually took the time out to say something like that.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. No, I think you're still cranky as all get out, but I love you anyway.
Well, yes, that's why we are the most dangerous show on the airwaves. Councilmember Mark Solomon, such a pleasure to have you as always, sir, and best of luck with your endeavor with the council.
Thank you very much, Ari. Good to talk with you there.
Good to talk with you as well. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the most dangerous show on the airwaves, the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show, my friends. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and two tickets to Darius Rucker at the Washington State Fair. Hootie himself. That's right, my friends. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. That interview with Councilmember Mark Solomon got me reminiscing about the council races in 2019. Katie Herzog, who is most definitely not my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy, she used to write for The Stranger, and now she's got a very large national following in politics. She posted this yesterday. It's a screenshot of Chris Rufo. Chris Rufo had posted on X a picture of the U.S. Department of Education, where now he's going to be helping them out disassemble the U.S. Department of Education, because he's the one who really brought critical race theory to the forefront of the national conversation. But he also ran for Seattle City Council. And Katie Herzog wrote this. She wrote, "The Department of Education being dismantled because Seattle progressives bullied Chris Rufo out of his city council race 7 years ago is quite the butterfly effect." I don't know if I agree with every part of that, but yeah, let's not forget the progressives went ballistic on him and even called the places where his wife worked. It was insane what they did. Katie Herzog followed this up by saying, "What happened? Chris was a Gary Johnson supporting Never Trumper in 2018 when he ran for office on a platform of dealing with homelessness and cleaning up Ballard. He gets bullied by Seattle progressives, drops out of the race, shifts his focus to wokeness. Trump sees him on Fox News, and here we are." Right? That's exactly what happened, because that's what happened to so many people who came under the Donald Trump Big Tent Republican Party, the Make America Great Again Republican Party. That's really what happened. And that's how you build bridges. That's how you get more people there, because basically these days, a progressive is somebody who just hasn't been mugged in Seattle yet, or hasn't had their car stolen. And a progressive is a conservative who hasn't had their car stolen in Seattle yet. Now, mind you, according to Como News, car theft rates are declining in Washington State for the first time in 5 years. Oh, gee, you think maybe bringing back police pursuits, you think maybe that might have had something to do with it all of a sudden? Oh, really? Let's not forget who banned them in the first place and who refused to reinstitute them until there was initiative by the people to get them reinstituted. For the first time since 2020, Washington State has seen a decline in auto thefts with a 31% decrease compared to 2023. However, despite this positive trend, Washington remains ranked 7th nationwide in auto thefts per capita and 5th in total volume. Yes, because it takes a long time to fix the mess that the Democrats made to our state. It's going to take a long time. What, you think the criminals go, oh, there's a law now, I have to follow it? No, because here they think they got a chance of getting out of jail because they got progressive judges like Joanna Bender and Veronica Galvin releasing criminals all the time. So, yeah, it's going to take a long time. But without Brian Haywood, Let's Go Washington, and all of you, that rate would still be going up and up and up. Just watch. You're going to have somebody like Turd Ferguson take credit for that, or Bruce Harrell take credit for that. They had nothing to do with that. It was you. It was all of you. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 gift card, plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to your good news giveaway, got some good news headlines for you. And this one starts locally. From the San Juan Islands, Fox 13 is reporting one person was saved, but another perished after their sailboat became disabled during stormy weather and rough seas during a blast of winter weather in Washington's San Juan Islands on Monday. According to the U.S. Coast Guard, a man made a mayday call, reporting his sailboat was disabled and drifting toward land with him and a woman on board. Scott McGrew, the chief of response for the U.S. Coast Guard, told Fox Weather they were unable to make communication with the sailboat, so the Canadian Coast Guard was relaying messages to their U.S. counterparts to initiate a rescue mission. Guys, don't go out in bad weather. This is like idiot Ari Hoffman when he was younger who goes, oh, a hurricane's coming. I should go surfing now. Very dumb. McGrew said the Coast Guard originally launched a rescue boat from Bellingham to try and reach the boat, but conditions were too rough for the boat to tow the sailboat away. At that time, the Coast Guard reported seas were 5 to 6 feet high, and winds were gusting between 25 and 30 miles an hour. McGrew said temperatures were in the low 20s, with snowy conditions for much of the evening. Why would you want to be on a boat in that weather? So we sent out the helicopter to attempt to hoist the individuals. As we're trying to figure out how to hoist them with that mast swinging back and forth, all the while the vessel had their sails up. So they're continuing to make way with the will of the wind. But while conducting the rescue, the boat ran aground and the sailboat's mast and sails collapsed. A rescue swimmer was then sent down from the helicopter to save the two people aboard the boat. Don't go out in bad weather, people. Don't do that. By the way, underrated movie. I did like that Guardian movie. I like the one with Kevin Costner and what's-his-face, and Ashton Kutcher. I did like that stupid movie. I know it's not great. Yeah, The Guardian. I like that stupid movie. I did not love it, but I did like it more than I should have. I will admit that. Also, apparently it's actually how they train people. So Ashton Kutcher could have been a rescue swimmer. Apparently he did that for real. So that's pretty impressive. It's pretty hard to become a rescue swimmer. I got one friend who is, and I know what he went through. According to Como News, there's a new study that the average American spent an alarming amount of time on their phone. According to a study from reviews.org, which was published on January 1st, the average American used their phone a lot in 2024. Apparently, people spent 2.4 months on their phone. That's how much time they wasted of their lives. Some of the most notable statistics they found include the fact that the average American checked their phone over 205 times a day, nearly once every 5 minutes they were awake. In fact, 81% of people check their phones within 10 minutes of waking up, according to the survey, and 66% of people use their phones on the toilet. I don't know anybody who does that. Many people seem to know. They have a problem, too, with 43% of Americans reporting that they feel as though they are addicted to their phones. But that's surprisingly down 24% compared to 2023. Are we finally wearing out of these things? Maybe, perhaps. That's why I do like having Sabbath. You get a day off from all this nonsense. The study found that on average, Americans spend 5 hours, 1 minute on their phones per day, which adds up to 2.5 months a year. Absolutely crazy. 27% of people said they look at their phones while driving. Stop that. You save money from your insurance company if you don't do that. So download your insurance company's app and save yourself some money. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes today, if I can find the right piece of paper here, not that one. Aha! Here we go. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980, features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life for 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit MadronaFinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we're giving away two tickets to Darius Rucker at the Washington State Fair on September 21st. You can get your pre-sale tickets right now, special for the KVI audience, using the password radio at thefair.com. Don't forget, these things go on sale tomorrow, but you can get them before anybody else by going to their website today and using the code radio at thefair.com. That's thefair.com. And while you're there, tell me about the special exhibits they're having this year. Is a Star Trek thing coming back? I love the Star Trek thing. I want to see what's going on at thefair.com. All you have to do in order to win these fabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to Successful Retirement, and the Little Red Book of Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Two tickets to Darius Rucker at the Washington State Fair on September 21st. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. It's 206-421-5757. That's going to do it for us today, but we'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.